necessarily an expert, but just watching my own child go through this experience and how to help him understand it. And like he knows, we're in our house, we are very open about this. Everybody's wearing crystals, like we talk about it, it's super open. But I want to be able to give him the tools to feel successful and in control. And I think when I was young, that's the thing I didn't have. I didn't know how to control it. So it felt very overwhelming. It was scary. It caused me panic and anxiety. Like, I want to be able to give him the tools in a really easy, simple book form, either pictures or whatever it is, and for other children to feel like they can control what's around them and that they can harness that power.
So that would be so cool. I think you have to do that. And we are live on Facebook now, so we'll continue this conversation in just a minute. So, hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the final day of Spotlight on the Shadow Seekers. I'm here with spiritual medium Teresa Barnea, and we were actually just talking about the potential for her to write a book sort of aimed at kids who are going through spiritual awakenings, because something that she experienced, I know I experienced it too as a kid, and now her son is going through, is having spirits reach out and not knowing what to do with it as a kid, and not having adults around you who really know what to do with it either. So I think that would be amazing for you to do.
Thank you. Yeah. And like I said, I feel like if I had a tool like this when I was a kid, maybe I could have avoided a lot of anxiety and panic as a young child.
Totally. It's like a different world nowadays from what it was when we were kids, where it was like, I think the repression that we experience that makes shadow work so necessary, hopefully it's going to be alleviated by the time our kids grow up, because they're not going to be so into that repression mode where they have to bury things down and away and get rid of it and pretend like it doesn't exist, because they'll have supportive people around them, or at least, at the very least, have things like social media where people are talking about these experiences to go, I'm not alone. It's not just me that's going through this, which is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was really fortunate because my mom is also very spiritually gifted. So she really let me lean into this, but it was something I didn't feel like I could talk to other people about. And I didn't feel comfortable just telling my friends like, hey, I see ghosts in my house and we have conversations. But I felt really fortunate that my mom was there, and she always encouraged it for me and allowed me to, I would journal about it and things like that. And she really encouraged that, but it wasn't something that I felt openly talking about. And now here I am, like, putting myself out there, like, yeah, I talk to dead people. Hi, everybody.
How's your day going?
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a weird world. And you really come from the corporate world. Like, as we started working together, and still to this day, you have a full, like, a really high-powered 9-to-5 job that you go to. That's a lot of men in your world.
A lot of men, lots of masculine energy.
Yeah, you have to kind of like switch between these two roles. So what was Create Your Light Academy like for you? Kind of like, for a minute, shutting some of that stuff down and opening yourself up to something that you hadn't done before.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know where I'm going to begin. This could be really long, but Create Your Light for me, I'm almost a little embarrassed because I have to admit, I signed up for the course not fully knowing what it was. And like Danielle and I had a session about it, and I don't think I really understood. I hadn't really learned that much about shadow work, but I was like,
it's hard to explain it to people. It's one of those, like, just do it and then you'll know.
Do it and you'll figure it out. Yeah. So I was like, like, I've never done anything for my spirituality before. I've spent a lot of time and money on therapy. I've done acupuncture and chiropractic and a lot of different things for self-care, but never in sort of the spiritual realm. So I didn't really come in with a lot of expectations. And after the first day, our first session for CYLA, it was like I opened Pandora's box. For me, that's exactly what it was. We did a past life regression. We dropped into a meditation. I was blown away at how quickly I could get into a meditative state like that, and how easy it was for me to see things. I mean, just the visual cues that came across were amazing. And as we progressed through, I think some of the other stuff that really helped me step into that feminine space that, we're talking about, because I have this very, very masculine kind of regular job, was the womb work as well. And I never realized how much I carry in my womb space and how much trauma is there. And not even from my current life. I can't say that I have a current trauma. I've lost a child before, which is very, very traumatic, but not somebody who has experienced other traumas in the womb space. And this to me was so eye-opening. And it turns out, like, I just carry so much weight here. And I think all women do. And being able to release and alleviate that. And I'm not done. I mean, I'm constantly this conversation and this fight to allow that space to be free and very feminine in this very masculine world and body that I live in.
Totally. Yeah. And it's weird too. I think for so many of us who it's like, I'm carrying trauma here and I understand that I'm carrying trauma here, but I can't figure out why, because it's like, there's no trauma that I know of. Like, there's nothing that I can find in my history that would make it be like, oh, of course, X plus Y equals Z. This makes sense. And that's where shadow work gets tricky, because I can tell people all the time before they join Create Your Light Academy, like, we're going to get rid of lifetimes of trauma, but you don't necessarily know what that means until you do it. And it's like all of a sudden, that's when it comes together and it makes sense.
Yeah. And I always had this feeling of past lives. I never, you know, I consider myself a very spiritual and religious person, Catholicism, more in the teachings of Christ than of the, you know, the box and mortar of church. But I always had this feeling like, we can't just die. I know we don't just die, because I had always felt spirit around me. And I was like, what is it? I don't, do we just float around? Like, what happens? And so going through shadow work helped me understand what it was. And it was that your soul just keeps trying and doing things and going to new places and experiencing new things. And that was really how I was able to connect that, because I knew there was something after we died, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And once we got into shadow work and dug into past lives, it's like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. All these things that I felt were accurate. It was true. I wasn't just making it up. Like it was all these things there that thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have experienced. So it's not just me. It's many, many people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole show on Netflix about like near-death experiences where people talk about that time where like they died and their soul left their body, but then it came back in and they learned some of these things. Like, okay, like when we die, we spend X amount of time. It's not predetermined. Your soul chooses how long it wants to be in limbo in between of like helping people who are still on earth versus crossing over. And there's so much there that it's like, there's too many similarities. Yeah. Everybody's kind of got similar stories that it's like, okay, there's got to be a thread there. There's something to it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So for you as a medium who's out practicing and doing this work, what is that space that's like afterlife? Like, how would you describe it?
You know, I think, and this has really helped me with my fear of death. I have had a very irrational fear of death for a very long time, because I was like, well, what happened? I don't want to just be done. You know,
I didn't
like
for shadow work. It was terrifying to me.
Yes, like anxiety inducing. What happens? And I've had deaths. A lot of family members die, and I think that was part of it. You know, like the longing and the missing of them. And stepping into my mediumship, I realized that it's just a small piece in the puzzle. This world, this physical world we live in today, is one piece in a 1,000-piece puzzle set. You know, or a 5,000-piece puzzle set. And that what happens in the afterlife is people, they check back in with what their physical world was like, and they just have learned so much, right? It's the evolution of the soul, and they've learned so much, and they're so at peace in the afterlife. You know, some people are very calm and relaxed, and some people are super funny, and they're out there, and they have these big personalities, but everybody's learned, and there's no regrets. And you know, they've done things, you know, in their physical life that if we were here today, we'd say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I feel so guilty. I'm so regretful. And for them, they're like, that's what happened. That's the lesson I have to learn. And I can't hold any grudges or obligations to what happened. But they impart so much knowledge and so much wisdom when given the opportunity to speak to you in the physical world. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah, it is cool. It's powerful stuff. As you're talking about people with personalities, they come through for me, and it's hilarious, like hearing what they have to say, and they speak in the voice that they spoke with when they were here. So it's
absolutely
undoubted, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. If they were a potty mouth, they're going to still be a potty mouth. And I try to tell everything exactly as it is. Yeah. Which is fine because I'm a potty mouth myself, but you know, it's like, I'm not saying this, they're coming directly from them. So don't get mad at me, but this is exactly like verbatim what they're saying. Yeah.
It makes it more real too. Like people can really trust it. Cause if that's how grandma talked, then that's how she still talks. Nothing changed.
Nothing has changed.
I feel like during Create Your Light Academy, your mediumship gifts have always been there. And like that's not a surprise. And while we were doing those early sessions, I could feel them coming through for you. But somewhere around like the halfway point, it was like they exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
can you talk about what that was like for you?
Yeah, I call it my spiritual glow up. I'm kind of still on my spiritual glow up as I continue to do shadow work. I still do a lot of stuff through Danielle's programs. I just had like this, it's like an indescribable fundamental shift in my perspective of life. I mean, I have suffered panic attacks my whole life, anxiety attacks, restless sleep, like just a lot of stuff. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, that's where that comes from. And then it was like, oh, you can stop that. You can control that because it's not your panic. It's somebody trying to talk to you. And all of a sudden I went from having these like debilitating panic attacks, like where I would have to take Xanax, to now I'm like, no, we're not talking right now. I understand I'm in a concert and there's thousands of people around. I'm just not having this conversation right now. And you can go away, because mine happens in my chest. It happens all right here. And I just say, nope, you can go away. And then that's it. I've never spent 40 years not understanding how to control a panic attack. And by the middle of that, I was like, oh, that's what that is. And then it's like a complete release. I have so much, I just feel such a sense of calm now, and such a sense of peace, and such a better understanding of the world around me and my place in it, that there's really nothing I should get upset about. It's kind of weird. I don't want to say it's like numbing, but I'm like, that's not that big of a deal. Like I'm not going to fight over that. I don't really care. In the grand scheme, doesn't mean that much.
My husband and I just had this conversation this morning, because he'll ask me sometimes these really philosophical, spiritual questions about like, what does it feel like? Like, what is it like for you? And it's like, it literally feels like things that would have been a 10 before shadow work feel like a 4, where it's like, I can recognize that I should be freaking out, but I don't feel the need to freak out. Like totally. I can zoom out and be like, it really isn't that big of a deal. Because it's like a tiny piece of a really big puzzle, and it just doesn't matter. And when you have that ability to kind of differentiate from it and be like, it really isn't that big of a deal, life is so much easier, don't you think?
Yes, 100%. Yes, things just roll off like they never did before, and just feeling so much more peaceful. And I still lose. I mean, you can ask my husband. I still lose my shit. That's like, it happens, right? Human. Still human. Human. I still cuss at people in the car when they're driving down. But it's just a lot of things just don't bother me like they did, and it's just such a nice place to be in, and it feels so relaxing that it's great. I just make level-headed decisions, and I don't get upset at people or things or situations. Because we're all human, living this human experience and trying to figure it out. And unfortunately, not everybody's had the opportunity to do shadow work or to connect with, people who've crossed over, so they don't have the same perspective, which I hope everybody one day gets. But for now,
we're going to get our hands on all of them.
Yes. I have a vision of myself, as crazy as it sounds. I have a vision of one day living a life where we all just telepathically communicate with each other, and we live in this total utopia, and it's perfect.
It sounds amazing. I'm down for that. Sign me up for that.
Okay.
When you were going through the program, one of the things that you had to learn was about the way that spirit was connecting with you, like how you were talking about that feeling in your chest, which is not the case for everybody. It's the case for a certain sect of people, whereas other people, when spirit's around, will feel it like a tingle up their arms, or maybe they'll feel like the hairs on the back of their neck kind of move up. And I think, first off, I think it's hard because society and the media have made us fear those things. It's like, if you feel like this intense energy in your chest, you're going to go, okay, like I'm having a heart attack or a panic attack. This is a problem. Or if I feel the hairs standing up on the back of my neck and it gets cold, I've seen enough scary movies to go, something evil is here. There's a problem. Right. And where it's like, we're brainwashed to think about those cues that are actually really warm, welcoming, inviting things as being scary terrifying things, and it throws off our whole internal compass and really skews it. So through shadow work and through Create Your Light, you and I worked on understanding what those cues mean and learning how to interpret them using all the tools that you had in your toolbox. So what was that like for you? Like a literally like a relearning of everything.
It really was. And I think one of the most helpful things that we did in our one-on-one sessions was I see images of things and connecting what those images mean. And I can't remember the name of it, the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you said, if you see an image, put a word next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's really where I started, right? Because I was seeing these images. And at first I would see things like, I would see balloons. If balloons came across my face, and understanding that balloons mean somebody had a birthday and a birthday was celebrated. If I get red roses that are close to my chest, it means that someone's had a recent wedding anniversary. If they're farther away from my chest, it means someone's had an engagement anniversary. So like asking those questions and figuring that out. And now all of a sudden I see the images, but now the words just come with them. You know, it's like in my mind's eye, the words come along with them so much more naturally. But I did have to ask those questions, and I used the tools around me, which was also identifying who my guides were and my guides assisting me in understanding that. And a lot of times I'll have to, when I'm doing a reading, I pause and I have to close my eyes and say, I don't know what that means. Tell me what that means. You're not giving me enough detail. It doesn't make sense to either of us in this conversation. And just being able to go back and ask that question. So I think, you know, there are themes that come through, but also now I'm in a place where it's just, I'm having a full conversation, almost telepathically with someone, and they're just telling me what I need to say. I'm a conduit. Yeah. I'm just a translator, like you would on Google Translate or something, essentially.
Yeah. And I've seen other mediums before. I'm very choosy about who I refer people to. And, you know, I refer people to you. So when I've seen other mediums before, and I also have this connection where I can hear spirit and it's easy for me, and I'll just watch. I'm like, you are completely missing it. Like, you're not getting like, they'll say something that it's like, they're supposed to bring up, let's say, the color blue. Mm-hmm. And then they'll tell the person that they're talking to, like, there might be a throat chakra block. And I'm listening, and it's like, no, blue is the nickname of their dog.
Yeah.
And that was the signal that, like, if this medium knows what they're doing, have them mention that. And it they don't resonate with it because they're not listening fully. And I think a lot of that has to do with shadow work. Because if you have things blocking you and your ego gets in the way, your messages are not clear. You're not getting the whole picture, which is why your strength has just gone exponentially up and continues to go up. The more work you do on yourself, the more clear your channel gets, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And allowing that channel to open. I think the other thing too is learning to be comfortable with saying very uncomfortable things.
Yes.
So I've had a lot of readings where people, they'll say, I want to apologize because I sexually abused you. And I have to say that out loud. Or you need to leave your house because if you don't leave your house, you're in danger of being killed. Like these are the things I have to say out loud, and it can be really uncomfortable, but I really have to say them, as crazy as they sound, because those are important messages people need to hear.
Yes, they do. Even something as awful as, like, I'm not going to apologize for this terrible thing that I did. It's important for their soul to understand that, because there's something they need to do now. There's an action they need to take, whether it's disconnecting from that experience and kind of going, I don't need them to apologize. I can find the strength within me to separate from it, or whatever it is. That's the soul's journey, and they have to walk it.
Yeah,
if you didn't say those things, they wouldn't get to. They'd still be holding to whatever it was that they needed.
Yeah, and if the spirit doesn't have the opportunity to say the things they want to say, they're just going to keep trying to find a way. That's the thing. They're gonna keep coming. They're gonna bother you. They're going to try to find a way to deliver that message. Yes.
And people don't realize how loud spirits get in their everyday life when a message isn't getting delivered, where it's like the universe is constantly trying to give you the answers to things if you're paying attention. But if you're not, they make it uncomfortable, like very uncomfortable until you hear it. So doing it through a medium is a really nice way to receive the message. It's like, it's tailor-made for you. We're going to put it on a plate and just hand it over. Just hear it. Just be there for it, which is cool.
You know, I had in one of our one-on-ones after our YLA, I should be totally open to it now, but sometimes there's things that happen and I'm like, oh, I just want somebody else to tell me what it is, but we were talking, and for 3 days in a row, it was in the winter, and I was wearing sweaters, and 3 days in a row, I put my sweater on backwards and fully was wearing backwards sweater during my workday. And I'm like, what the hell? Why do I have this sweater on backwards? And we're having a one-on-one. I was like, can you just tell me? And you're like, no, I'm not going to tell you. You go ask. I was like, oh, fine. So I closed my eyes, I asked my guys, and they told me that sometimes you need to step backwards before you can step forward. And it made perfect sense because I had done a reading with someone in CYLA and RYLA, and I'd done a reading with her that went horribly south, absolutely horribly south, and I didn't understand why. And we're friends, but we had this weird thing happen, and then after that, my sweater's on backwards 3 days in a row. It's like, oh, duh, because sometimes you need to go backwards and have this horrible experience and learn from it, and then you can progress forward and understand. And sure enough, dug into it, and we figured out we lived a past life together, and there was some drama in our past lives, and that's what carried through. And after that, we did another reading. Beautiful, everything was seamless. It came through, but we had to break through that information.
Yes. And it's important for you as a medium to know that, because you're going to encounter other people who you've had past lives with, and it could interrupt the way that the flow goes. And now you know that if you didn't get that step backwards with someone who's so comfortable, it could have been with somebody who's a stranger in this life, and that would have been really awkward.
Yeah. So I appreciate that they put it with somebody who is comfortable with, and we can make up and figure it out, instead of having it with somebody who's like, no, she did a bad job.
Yeah. She's just not good at this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wild. And since we're on the topic of RYLA, why don't we talk about that? Because I know, like, you just mentioned a time where I wouldn't give you an answer in RYLA. And that's definitely something that I do as people progress, because I want your gifts to grow. I promise you guys, the first 4 weeks of Create Your Light, I'm giving you all the answers.
Yep, for sure.
5 and 6, I'm going to start testing you. I want to push you to get the answers yourself. By the time we get to week 7 and 8, I really want you to get a hold of those answers by yourself, because that's how you grow. The goal for me is that you don't need me. I want you to go and be able to do this without me. So by the time we get to Radiate, if you'll remember, there were times where I would just post it out to the group and be like, everybody else tell her, like, you guys brainstorm this together, because you don't need me anymore. I'm here just as a guide to remind you of how much power you have. So find your way. And that is just a small piece of our YLA, obviously, with everything else going on. But what was that transition like for you?
I was a little hesitant on doing RYLA, and I actually joined a couple weeks late.
You did.
But the universe was just like, it was like, no, you need to do this. So what was interesting to me is that it was a combination of shadow work, a combination of building community, and then building your business. I never thought for a hot second that I would start my own business in a matter of months. I never, ever thought in a second I would do it. And then I got to RYLA, and, the women around me pushing me, you pushing me really hard, like really, really hard, and being like, no, January is the date. I'm like, yes, ma'am, January is the date. And pushing me so hard that I did things. I created a website.
A beautiful website.
Thank you. I created a website. I learned how to use Squarespace. I learned how to use Acuity. I got back on social media, which is something I hadn't been on for years, putting myself out there. I bought a camera light so that I can do, recordings, and learned how to use TikTok. Like, I did all of these things because I was like, okay, this is my calling. And I knew it's not something I'm doing full time, because I have a full-time job, but this is what I do on the side to help people. And honestly, for myself to feel really fulfilled. I only do it a few hours a week, but just launching all of this stuff within months, and never having any experience in something like this. And that's the community, everybody giving thoughts and ideas, and, and feedback. And even Danielle and I did a session, we were doing a one-on-one, and she just like helped me build the website. It was like, oh, okay, that's how we're going to spend our time. We're going to build a website. It's like, okay, let's get it done. So it was this aspect. I really didn't think I'd be launching a business. I thought I'd be like learning about a business. Oh, I filed an LLC. Like I did all kinds of, I have a checking account for my business, all these things. I just thought it would be like a more of shadow work, but it was this kind of compilation of all these things to take me to the next level that I didn't know I needed as much as I really needed, and gave me the confidence to do this, to like really put myself out there and run a business. Something I've always wanted to do. I just didn't know what it was. I've always known I wanted my own business. And I've tried a bunch of different things. I've done consulting, I've done home organizing. It was like, and nothing stuck. I couldn't understand. And this was it. This was absolutely it. Yeah.
It's so cool. And I'm so proud of you for everything that you've done, because it's funny with spirituality. I feel like there's such an emphasis on your gifts, and your gifts need to be really strong for you to be successful, but nobody really teaches you how to do the business stuff. And that's half the battle. Like if I can't find you online, how am I supposed to book with you? Like you could be the best medium in the world, but if you're not findable, then like, okay, there's nothing I can do there. And on the flip side, I feel like there's a lot of people that you can find who are not really good at what they do, which is why the continued shadow work and the building of your gifts is just as important. So merging those two together and making them be something where it's like, we're going to do these hand in hand until you're at the point where you're ready to launch is so key. And one of my favorite things that I've seen you do is that we have in our alumni space for Create Your Light Academy, the ability for everybody to go live, and it's called Spotlight on the Shadow Seekers. It's called Radiate Your Light series. And every week somebody gets to go live and talk about what they do and like share their gifts. And once your business launched, it was just a few weeks ago, actually, you went live and did live mediumship readings for people.
Yeah.
And I know everybody because I know all the alumni. I've been through their highs and their lows with them through shadow work. And the readings that you gave had me with goosebumps the whole time. There's one alumni who, someone really important to her came through, and she needed that message so bad. And I think that was something that was just a beautiful gift for you to bring over. And then someone else came on who was pregnant, who you gave a reading to, and you didn't know this, but it was my sister.
I didn't know this. And I was like, oh,
and it was amazing. And it was so spot on and powerful. And she's pregnant right now and terrified as a pregnant person. And she got so much clarity and so much reassurance that her guides are with her every step of the way. So just your gifts are really powerful. And I'm just lucky to have you in the group. And I'm so grateful to you for sharing your gifts with our community and with everybody here watching right now.
Thank you. And I mean, for anybody that's thinking about shadow work, a shadow work session, a past life regression, CYLA, I am here today because of the gifts that Danielle gave me and the confidence that she built in me. So, and it started with a past life regression. I found Danielle on TikTok and I was like, what is a past life regression? Whatever, I'll try this thing. And then I just like, my brain exploded, like absolutely exploded. I couldn't even describe it. People are like, well, what was it? I'm like, I am speechless. I don't, and that's just sort of how it catapulted. But I had all these gifts, but I needed to find, the universe needed to connect me with someone who was going to harness these gifts. And that was Danielle for me, and giving me the confidence to be able to do that, and the direction I needed, the things to look for and the work to do. Yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that. I love you so much.
I love you too.
And the universe puts each other in our paths for a reason.
Yeah.
We've had past lives together before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad this one's going better than other ones. So,
we joke that Danielle had me off in a past life, so now she has to make up for it.
It was peripheral. I just let everybody fall under the bus to save my own ass. But that's a story that you guys can read in my upcoming book that's coming out this November. Then I'll be announcing all the details about that shortly, but stories about that will be in the book.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then in a future book, you and I can write one together and we can talk about all these things and how they're so linked. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you feel drawn to someone, there's a reason you feel drawn to that person. Okay. You have a connection. And if you're drawn to this and you're on this live right now and you're asking questions about whether or not you should do it, that's your answer. It's absolutely your answer.
Beautiful. Yeah. All right. Well, Teresa, how can everybody find you on social media so that they can have a reading with you?
Yes. So my website is IamTeresaBarnea.com. Very easy to do. I'm on Facebook at I am Teresa Barnea. And then also on Instagram, my handle is I_am_Teresa_Barnea. So it's pretty simple. If you just typed I am Teresa Barnea, something would come up somewhere. So that's it. And on my Instagram page, I do have some stories. I talk about the importance of confidentiality. I talk about kind of, how I got to where I am today. And then also other people who have given some testimony or some feedback to their readings. And I think that's it. I do a little bit of TikTok, not really. It's mostly because I import the reels from TikTok into Instagram, but yes.
All stuff that we talk about in Radiate Your Light, things like
absolutely
really clear for everybody to be able to find you in all these different places, sort of pick one platform and let that be the one that takes you off. And then eventually you can bring things over from that space into others, but one that you use to catapult you forward. You do all the things.
Yes. All the things. Yes. I'm more soul aligned to Instagram, as silly as that sounds. But that's probably the thing I connect with more. And so that's where I spend a lot of time and space.
Exactly. All right. Well, if anybody has questions for Teresa, you can post them in the comments section on this thread and she'll be happy to answer them. Follow her on social media and book a session with her because she's incredible. So I actually just gifted my mom as her 60th birthday gift a session with Teresa. So I'll comment about how that goes on social.
No pressure.
No pressure. I won't tell you her name. So when it comes up, you just won't know.
Oh, perfect. Yep. I love that. I don't like to know people's names. I don't want any background. That's the thing. When people come, they're like, I want to, I'm like, no, I don't want to know anything. Don't tell me anything.
Yep.
Everything will come through as it's supposed to.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, thank you again, Teresa, for coming on. And thank you everybody for watching, whether you're live or on the replay. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning in for this amazing series. Up next week, we have a 3-day masterclass with myself and the Shadow Seekers coaches, Nikki Comoni and Kristen Ramazana. We're going to be doing amazing shadow work masterclasses on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So buckle up. This is going to be good. I love you guys, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.